Το πρόγραμμα που ακολουθεί είναι κατάλληλο για άνω των 8 ετών.
Φίλες και φίλοι, καλησπέρα σας. Σας καλωσορίζω σε μια ειδική συνέντευξη. Σε μια συνέντευξη με έναν άνθρωπο που έχει διατελέσει σε πολλές κέρυες θέσεις της διπλωματίας της γείτονος χώρας, ναι, της τουρκικής δημοκρατίας. Και μάλιστα ξεκίνησε την καριέρα του στην Αθήνα, μετά ήταν πριν 2 δεκαετίες περίπου γενικός πρόξενος στο προξενείο της Κομοτηνής και μετά προχώρησε στην καριέρα του στην Μόσχα, στην Τεχεράνη, στη Βιέννη και τώρα εν αποστρατεία, δηλαδή επίτιμος πρέσβης στην τουρκική δημοκρατία, ζει εκεί και γι' αυτό μπορούμε να μιλήσουμε ελεύθερα, πραγματικά, από τη θέση που κατέχει και εγώ από τη θέση του ελεύθερου δημοσιογράφου και βεβαίως και ως πρόεδρος του Think Tank ΕΑΝΟΣ μπορούμε να προσεγγίσουμε θέματα με έναν τρόπο που σίγουρα ελπίζουμε και εσείς να διαπιστώσετε ότι βοηθάει πάρα πολύ την επικοινωνία, διότι η καλύτερη επικοινωνία στηρίζεται πάνω σε ελεύθερες σκέψεις και στην προσέγγιση της πραγματικότητας.
It is very good to talk to you. It is very good to be at this by spirit in Alexandropolis. I am not there physically, but my heart, my feelings are over there. When I was in Greece, let me tell you very clearly, I didn't spend any weekend inside Athens. But my claim is that I visited more Greek cities and more Greek islands than maybe most of the Greek citizens. This I can say. Even I had some brochures. I prepared some books, so I know. I mean, of course, as time passes, it's in the very back. I mean, so 3 decades ago. So, when I visited all those places, when I had an opportunity to talk to some people, not necessarily Turks, but of course Greeks, all over. So, I understand that really we are very circled, Turks and the Greeks, maybe naturally. I mean, it is not possible to avoid, but maybe I can say we are circled, I mean, with political issues, mostly. Bilateral, regional, or whatever it is. Maybe it's part of life. What can we say? I mean, part of life.
Maybe it's part of neighboring life.
Yes, part of neighboring life. This is all we can say.
But it can be better. For sure, it can be better, I think.
Certainly it can be better. Why I am telling you all this, dear colleague, dear friend, really, I mean, if one day, if 1 decade, I don't know, whenever it is, if we can learn how to live together, I never underestimate the importance of political problems. I mean, if I say so, they are not irrelevant. It's romantic. I mean, it's not true. Because there are some issues that we have to talk it. But we have a background, we have a lot of things to share. My first impressions about Turkey and Greece and about 5.5 years, which I spent in your beautiful country.
I wish that very soon it will come a day that the only tension between Greece and Turkey will be the origin of baklava. But this is only rhetorical because I think baklava comes from Syria, so this problem is also solved. Let us please start with our more stricted area of diplomacy and foreign affairs. And let me ask you, firstly, how do you receive the today's role, position of modern Turkey in the region, in the whole world? Do you think that there is a possibility in the next 10, 15, or maybe 20 years that what President Erdogan said about the era of Turkey to not be only a regional power, but also to belong to the top 5, top 6 powers of the whole world on the global scale? Do you think, can it be possible in economical, in social, referring to social structure in Turkey, social cohesion, diplomacy, and of course in military manner? Do you think, is it possible?
I see. Of course, I have to answer this question from a realistic and also visionary or idealist way, because some issues cannot be answered only by idealist approach or cannot be approached by realist approach. It's a sort of mixture, because every nation like Greece, Turkey, or Bulgaria, whatever it is, or USA, we have some ideals and we have some visions. Why? It's quite natural. Turkey is not an ordinary country. Greece is not an ordinary country. We have a background. We have a vision in terms of language, economy, everything. So vision for future is also very important. Now, one thing about this question, I do not agree, or I counter question, because such kind of projects towards future for my idea cannot be framed, as President Erdogan said, in 10 or 15 years. It can be further, it can be 30 years. This, of course, is a little bit to discuss about social structure, because it is not figurative. There are no figures. But it is much more easier to talk about military or economy, because much more realistic, let's say. Now,
you mean measurable?
From a military point, measurable, of course, to calculate. But of course, social structure is much more important than anything else.
Because social cohesion is a fundamental thing for the future, for the perspective of a country, of a nation.
Certainly. And let me tell you, whatever say about Turkey right now is also, I believe, is true for Greece also, because as I said, these two countries are not ordinary countries. We are not small Liechtenstein, Turkey, and we are not small African countries. Turkey and Greece are major countries. This is how I feel and I believe. Now, let's turn back to your question. From economic point of view, what figure can I? First, there is, of course, there is a G20 group of countries. G20. It is it is a sort of club. It's a club, but Turkey is a member. And there are also another, when I look at the time to time, globally, gross domestic product of nations. When I look at Turkey is about 18 or 17. On the top is USA, then comes other countries. I should say it is not bad. It is not bad. But of course, for an economy to be powerful, to be a number 17 globally or 18 globally is important. I cannot neglect it. It's important. But of course, for a powerful economy, such kind of figures are not alone enough. How the economic richness is shared among the nation. If the majority of economy is at the hands of a group of people, it's a problem, or some other way. So I can never say 5 years, 10, 20 years. This is another story, because I am not a politician. But I believe that I have an expectation, because if I join politics one day, I have to share these things very clearly. I mean, Turkey, if we can solve some issues,
But you are now
issues,
retired. In that spirit, you can speak maybe a little more open to us about,
of course.
about
So
your
of
beliefs,
course.
your expectations.
Yeah, of course. So, I really don't know how the things work in an economic issue after 10, 15 years, but I believe idealistically that Turkey can jump some ranks above 18. So this is my belief.
What about military power?
Military.
Because of big importance is
yeah.
also the self-production, military arm production of a country. And
Of course.
Turkey nowadays is very productive, I think, on that issue, in that area.
That's right. Of course, they are working on defense field very actively. Of course, I am not in the government, but from what I see, what I follow, they have done great jumps, great leaps forward, especially in defense industry. This is how I feel. In this context, Turkey is not bad also. Maybe good, maybe better than economic values also. Again, on the top, US, China, Russia, second comes than others. In that index, dear colleague, Turkey is, of course, there are fields, air, land, or design, but about 10th or 9th global army, which is good, I should say. But I don't know.
Let us come to another question that I have to you. Do you agree that maybe modern Turkey is too small to be total independent today, but too big to be guided by bigger powers? Do you agree with that? And this is the problem of the today's orientation of Turkey. That's why
Of course.
modern Turkey and President Erdogan maybe has some difficulties if he wants to balance, absolute balance between USA and this, maybe Russia and China.
Of course. You are perfectly well. It's a very good question, because it is a very important question of political science and international relations. The main question on these global issues is that how will the mid countries, I mean, okay, there are some, not some, there is one unique power, US. We are not in a bipolar power like Cold War. There is no Soviet Union. Then comes a sort of secondary countries like China, Russia. Of course, as a whole, European Union is a global power. Then along comes countries like Brazil, Turkey, it's single countries. It comes and some others. And of course, the question is that what will be the behavior of these middle countries? As you said, maybe small to compete with European Union alone or US, it's not realistic. But bigger than, of course, some other smaller countries. This is another factual life. And as you have rightly mentioned, I served in Russia. I had opportunity to observe such kind of things. Now, of course, on some foreign policy issues, I put Turkey has two hats, two caps. One is that Turkey is whether successful or not, another question. But Turkey is a member of NATO and candidate country of European Union, another long story, or Council of Europe. So we have an identity of being member of such kind of blocks, such kind of groups. Because for my understanding, for future global map of global issues in future, there will not single countries have no future. I mean, it will be very limited. We will be talking about Latin American countries, European Union. For me, European Union is the most successful story of 20th century and 21st century. The most successful, maybe
On the
yeah, I mean,
contrary,
of course,
someone could say only in some areas, but not as a total.
Of course, I mean, everything can be discussed. The same
It is
questions
not a
we
real
can talk about.
confederation of independent states. It's not a confederation.
Of course, but of course, I mean, when I
With
compare
with no military power ready to react against any challenges or threats.
it's really a big project. It's a really very important project. I say I see it more important than Russian Federation, even maybe US. It's okay, another story, military power. But so Turkey, with his membership or candidature to these structures, is not alone, is not independent, and the success of future Turkey in diplomacy will be dependent on also the future of European Union, NATO. Because NATO in my age, young students' age, during the Cold War, it was only a defense collective, defense military. Now it's a global power, not only military, economy, it deals with everything, everything. So the future of NATO, the future of Turkey, of course, Greece or Germany will be very much related with the new NATO. This is one, which Turkey is a member. European Union is another story. But this is this part of Turkey. But second part of Turkey is part of Caucasus or Caucasia region, Middle East region, which are not very much relevant for, let's say, European Union politics, foreign policy. Turkey has some bilateral steps, bilateral vision toward the region. This is another part. So, in this picture, I believe that for Caucasus, it's the same. Relations with Turkey, Armenia, Georgia, even with Russia. Sometimes contradictory with not an European Union, but it has a bilateral importance for Turkey. So, in this picture, I believe that for future diplomacy of Turkey will be dependent, not independent, but dependent of Turkey's success to balance these two things. Actually, three things. Developments, nature of Turkish politics inside Turkey, one, of course. Second, our relations with NATO, European Union, Consular Europe. And the third dimension, the third pillar is how will we manage the issues, what is going on, Syria, Iran, Russia.
My questions referred to these challenges for Turkey. But as you say, as you mentioned already, Caucasus, on Syria, I would add to that two more things, the Gaza Strip issue, and of course, the Eastern Mediterranean issues.
Yeah, of course.
And let us discuss first about Syria. Which do you think is the main goal of Turkey in Syria? To control the policy there in order also to indirectly control the policy and the behavior of there living Kurds? Or do you think that Turkey is ready to have a compromise to share influence in Syria with the other big power there, which is Israel?
Actually, of course, Syria issue is really a basic problem. Not only for Turkey, it's a matter of every country, America, USA, I mean Israel, for everybody it's an issue, conflict problem. And Turkey's general position for current government, or basically for Turkey, with the exception of some political groups, but basic approach is that to keep the boundaries, as Syria exactly today, alive. No degeneration, no new splits in the country, nothing. So this is the basic approach. And this is basic one. Secondly, of course, the Kurds. I mean, of course, Kurds is an issue. It's a a difficult problem. But when we talk about the, especially, you know, they are mostly in the eastern part of the river. Northern Syria. Of course, there are some other nations or ethnicities or people over. Of course, the Kurds are the basic issue, the basic grouping, but there are also Arabs, Turkomans, this and this. So, to this second issue, government is following the approach that, especially the military power of, how should I say, the administration, or what, not a government, whatever, or in the region, they should integrate with the current Damascus government.
So you think the solution for a viable, long-lasting approach there is if the Kurds, both socially and administratively, in the administration
Yes.
manner, and military
Yes.
should be integrated to the whole structure of the government of Syria? Or you think that there is a possibility that they will gain some kind of autonomy like the Kurds in northern Iraq?
Northern Iraq. Of course, I mean, you know, they had an agreement, 10th of March agreement with the Damascus and those people over in the region. They have decided on the 10th of this year, beginning of the year, actually. This kind of questions, of course, is a matter of, first of all, Syrian, their issue. I mean, from outside, it is not my right to dictate anything. I can only share if the government, Turkish government, is making proper steps, some basic issues, or maybe I disagree with some other elements.
Το πρόγραμμα που ακολουθεί είναι κατάλληλο για άνω των 8 ετών.
But let us come to another big challenge from modern Turkey's policy about the Eastern Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Let us talk openly. As you know,
of course.
there are too many things to be discussed. And maybe it will be a good opportunity if Turkey says yes to the proposal of Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis for a multilateral conference with Greece, Cyprus, maybe all parts of Cyprus. How the way can be, it's another discussion, with Turkey, of course, with Lebanon, with Libya, Egypt, maybe also with Israel. So, about things which is not only about maritime zones, but about safety, about immigration, about interconnection. Do you think there is a possibility to come to such a multilateral discussion with open cards, which means a better perspective for a long-lasting stability in our region?
As a matter of principle, there is no other way. There is no way to regional peace, stability, other than all the actors in the region are on the table. There is no other way. Because when we talk about, actually Eastern Mediterranean question is one of the most difficult ones. But if we agree on that all parties has a right to talk, to share, I think it will be a perfect step forward. But of course, there's one basic, major problem during the last 2 years. I will tell you also about it also very openly. Now, in Eastern Mediterranean, there is United States, even there is India is involved. India, through some military exercises, or US, European Union, everybody's involved, all actors. All, if we extend not only East, but if we think about wider...
Qatar also.
Yes.
Israel, Egypt.
So there is no other way that we have to sit on the table. But when I say, I mean, of course, I am not very much informed about the proposal of Mr. Prime Minister.
Actually, it's similar to the proposal some years ago of President Erdogan, but the proposal of Mr. Mitsotakis, Prime Minister of Greece, includes, of course, the international law, especially the maritime international law. If we respect it, at least orally, I say, maybe we can go forward to this discussion.
Exactly, that's right. Because some years ago, President Erdogan also proposed, I think it was titled East Mediterranean Conference or something like the title, the framework. Because when you say these things, I remember automatically those things. Actually, of course, I don't know, and maybe you know or you don't know, I am not sure. But the elements of these two proposals are, if it includes sitting on the table by all actors, it's a perfect start. I mean, I really don't see another way. I mean, if there is tension, there are skirmishes, but especially since it's a region very close to Middle East, or if we see the experiences of Africa, which we are facing globally, they are really very tense regions globally, and we cannot move forward. I mean, the more there is tension, the more backward we are, and other parties go better, stronger, but we will be backward. So this is my general approach. Yes, we have to sit, we have to talk. It doesn't matter. If it is sooner, it is better. Because if the problem is extended 10, 15, 20 years, there is no solution. I mean, it is really difficult. There should be courageous, leaders should be courageous. In this context, we have one advantage, but one disadvantage in these issues. Let me tell you very clearly and very sincerely. Turkish public opinion is not very much active, or they don't have a very close interest to questions which we are discussing. Of course, there are TV programs, there are NGOs, journals, this and this. But it's
That's why we are here, Mr. Ambassador. That's why we are here, to give to the Greek and Turkish people maybe a better, a global insight about everything towards truth.
Of course. So these questions are a bit far to the interest of Turkish public opinion. So it gives an advantage to Turkish leadership, because otherwise, if it is problematic, like Israel-Hamas war, it is not easy for Turkish leadership to take courageous steps. We will talk about. But I don't know how is the situation in Greece. I really don't know. I mean, the psychology of the public opinion, this. But any issue related with Turkey, when I was in Greece, in Athens, it immediately turns into a national issue. Maybe it's right. Maybe for Greek perspective, maybe it's true, right? I don't know. So I wonder if the political governments are also, do they feel pressure if they deal some talks with Turks or Turkish government? I really don't know. But this point is very, I always say it's an advantage position for Turkey.
I think if we exclude populist voices, we could reach such an approach. The main maybe problem that Turkey issues is brings up is the Cyprus issues, because as you know, nobody recognizes the northern part of as a state, but all the world and the United Nations, United Europe, everyone recognize only the Cyprus Republic. But maybe there can be a solution that indirectly also the northern part of Cyprus, Turkish Cyprus can enter this discussion. And in that spirit, do you think we have a unique opportunity? Because as you know, Mr. Ambassador, as you know very well, we can realize that we have to be rational, that the Turkish Libya memorandum is null and void.
Of course, since the problem has so many technical aspects also, all issues, so much technical participants, the agreements, which the bilateral agreements, other agreements, of course, it's not an easy issue. This I understand. But as I said, my principal approach is that the leaders should take the lead. Leaders should be courageous and they should take the lead, because there is no other way. I mean, we cannot go forward into the coming decades with such tensions arising. It's not possible. But it will be a very good start that the leaders start talking. And in the north, there's another guy, Mr. Tufan Ergurman, which you said. Maybe, of course, in coordination with Turkey or his counterpart in Greek, Nicosia, they can find the way. They can find a way. This is my principal approach. I am totally close to idea that there is no dialogue. This is it. It's not easy, but there is no other way. And the second thing is that if there is such a feeling, psychology in both countries and among the leaders, between the leaders, it's a perfect start because, of course, there are so many actors in the region. This is what I said also. But the main actors are Turkey and Greece. These two, they are the leading actors. So it will be perfectly well if Mr. President Erdogan and Prime Minister Mitsotakis has a lead. But
of course, Libya and Egypt,
all of them,
as well as Israel and Lebanon nowadays, has something to say on that issue, of course.
Certainly, certainly. But what I say is especially basic actors. I mean, I always attribute importance to Turkey and Greece. But under current circumstances, we have one disadvantage. This I have to tell you. This is my feeling. The position of Israel. Because Turkish government takes some very courageous steps on East Mediterranean issue or any bilateral issue because it is good for them to solve all those. Maybe, of course, it's good for Greek also. So if they are open, they can start some sort of process. But the position of Israel, this question is a sort of problematic issue for Turkey, I have to tell you, because in this issue, there is a too much public pressure over Turkish government.
But as I understand, the main problem in the Eastern Mediterranean for Turkey is Israel. So what do you think about the Gaza Strip problem?
Actually, this is part of the problem. I mean, of course, Israel is a nation, is a state. When people is talking about East Mediterranean, not only on maritime issues, but also territorial, continental territory, security, energy,
of course,
everything.
Interconnection, even civil region. Protection.
But everything, fishing, civil protection, everything, because we are part of the same region.
And maritime, spatial planning also.
Of course. Certainly, everything. Human relations, tourism, everything, social relations, everything. But I really don't know what will be the position of Turkish government for such a wider conference or region, or how they will respond to proposals of Prime Minister Mitsotakis because of bilateral.
But Turkey will benefit of that.
No, this I understand. But what I am questioning, what question in my mind is that how will Turkey be in the same talks or regional conferences with Israel? They have to talk think, formulate, because it will be a matter of discussion, or maybe even reaction from some segments of Turkish public opinion towards the government. So, because this is related with the Gaza issue, which you have mentioned, I wish they should overcome. This is another story. But in the Gaza problem is that the approach of Turkish government to Gaza problem issue, Israel, is totally different than the approach of US, European Union, and naturally Greece problem, how they approach the problem. I mean, the Turkish-Israeli relations are one of the most difficult and tense relations of our community. But only I am saying it will be an issue for Turkish government to think and to discuss, because how can I say that we are talking about a regional framework, but Israel is not party, or one country, one X country is not. It's not easy to say. But diplomacy is about formulating solutions, technical details, formulating whatever it is. So if the diplomats can manage to find some formulations, what you said, what Mr. President Erdogan or what Mr. Prime Minister, your Prime Minister proposed, it should start. This is my understanding. What I said about Israel is just, it is one of the difficult elements of the process, but they should find the way.
Let us agree to the very fundament of making things better. The very fundament of everything is the respect of international law. And talking about international law, let us come to a narrow thing, I could say, in figurative, but also actually thing between Greece and Turkey in these relations, which is the Aegean Sea and issues that, as Greece says, there is only one thing to discuss, and this is
continental
shelf, and in the Eastern Mediterranean, of course, the exclusive economic zone. But Hakan Fidan, 2 days ago, issued something which is really not very positively accepted in Greece, as he highlights the intention of Turkey to be very active in defending, as he says, all its rights, even in the Aegean. But what do you consider is the rights? What are the rights of Turkey in the Aegean Sea?
Then, to this question, let me answer a sort of in the national approach of Greece to Aegean questions is different than the national approach of Turkey to problems. As you have rightly mentioned, for Greece side, it is the continental shelf, basically, the 3-mile issue. That issue. But for Turkey, the issue is much more wide, 5-6 items on the issue. Continental shelf, territorial waters, the flights, everything. So many questions.
Even the sovereignty of some islands, of some Greek islands near the Turkish coast.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I don't oppose to this formulation of Lausanne. But so instead of saying, instead of criticizing Turkish government or Greek government here as a Turkish citizen, I don't want to approach the question from this perspective, really. This is it. Because one of our basic problems is that we don't sit on the table. We don't sit on the table, around the table. Because as a Turkish citizen, if I am a, let's say, Prime Minister of Turkey, my first approach would be to get familiar not only with Turkish national position, but with Greek position in total details, totally basic approach. How is it? What is it? Is it? So, and I wish, I hope, the Greek side does the same. Both. I mean, if this is the issue and this is the answer, yes, no discussion. So our problem is that not only with the treaties or agreements or whatever it is. Of course, I can never say if there is a, not only for Turkish-Greek relations, with Turkish relations with all countries or Greek relations with all countries, sovereignty should be respected. Whatever it is, the concept should be. So, we have to sit on the table regarding minority issues or territorial, all issues on East Mediterranean or Aegean. Let us sit, let us talk, and let's
please give us an example, Mr. Ambassador, and I ask you honestly, with big respect to your experience and your mindset, what do you mean all things? Because sovereignty things cannot be discussed.
All things. Really, believe me, all things. If there is an item that Greek want to include in the agenda, this is it. It should be included. Because in such a small talk, a limited talk, without having all the details of the files, proposals, or I am really not in a position to give much more technical details.
Okay.
I know the basic ones.
I understand.
But
let us say
we have to let it sit.
Let us say that also in that topic, most important thing is goodwill and trust. And as we talk about trust, let us come finally to another issue, which is not, of course, an official issue in the Greek-Turkish relations, and I don't mention it, of course, officially, but as you served as a consul in the Thraci. Thraci is the part in Greece. Thracia is in Turkey. I will not say Western Thrace, I will say Thraci, which is the Greek Thraci, and there is also Thracia in Turkey. So, of course, our discussion should not be considered as an intervention in the Greek affairs, of course. But tell me something about your feeling about the Muslim minority, which in a big part is of Turkish origin. So there are too many Turkish-speaking people. What do you think about this topic? And their integration to the European acquis, as I say, the Greek European acquis.
Of course, of course. Now, at this age of mine, after retirement, now as a human being, I am thinking, I believe that all minorities, wherever they are, Australia, Germany, or wherever they are, Turkey, Greece, are our greatest heritage. And all their rights, whatever it is, whatever they feel like in Balkans or Africa, it should be respected. If I am very clear on this one. If our minorities, which are Greece, we call them Rum, but Greek, as you say them, or Armenians or Jewish origin, if there is a misleading policy from our side, which bothers them, which makes them unhappy, we have to correct it. This is it. Because if I want something from German government or French government, because there are not minorities, but there are citizens of Turkey who are working, if I ask them to respect their rights, so I should do the same. I must do the same. Which I am not aware because I didn't study that topic. But if we have a minority, they should be respected. School, foundation, whatever it is. So I am not totally aware about Istanbul, which they are living, most of the minorities. They should speak, they should have everything. So with this approach, my basic approach to this issue or whatever, this minority is similarly the same. It is not that as a former consul general, I am saying these are the problems. But if the minority itself, it says that they are asking for as Greek citizens, because they are your citizens. If they are asking for something from Greek government, I only wish, hope, and I cannot ask because I am not a Greek citizen. They respect the same as I ask our government, or if I am a prime minister, to do the same if they have problems. So what are they? I mean, sometimes I thought, why such questions are very impossible to handle. I think what you have said previously 2-3 minutes ago is that confidence between our sides, trust. I think
nothing better than that.
Yeah, I think this concept applies mostly, and the best example is to Thraci, which you said, Thraci. Yeah. So. Of course, I am totally aware what the Lawson government says about the concept, the Muslim minority. This is clear, I know. But in this question, I asked to our Greek colleagues in most of the times, of course, I mean, as a religion, but what if that Muslim citizen is an atheist? So I am not criticizing the Lausanne Treaty. It's a basic instrument which we have, because in Turkey, in the previous years, some public opinion, some strange people, they discuss 100 years of it. No, it's a basic instrument which we all have to respect. Pillar is our pillar. So if he is an atheist or if he is not, so yes, Muslim minority, but of course they have an ethnic identity as well. In Istanbul, if we have a citizen of an Orthodox or whatever other religion, I cannot oppose that if he says, I am Christian, but I am Turk or whatever it is. So my understanding, because I know the demands of the public opinion, minority over there. If they say we are a Muslim Turk, I mean, really, I don't see what is wrong with it. Or if they say that we have problems with teaching Turkish in our schools, let the Greek government focus on the trial. If the Greek minority in Turkey has the same problem, it is our duty. So when I am saying, honey, trust, let's sit on the table, let's solve all of them together.
Yes, Mr. Ambassador.
So, this is it.
Theoretically, there's nothing better than trust, but the main thing is to implement it as a fact. Because, as you know, these minority issues, even in Greece, in Thraci, has suffered, this issue has suffered of leaking, of a lack of, how can I say it, of trust, of a problematic level of trust in the last decades, in the last maybe 7 decades, because as you know, the Greek Orthodox, and I'm very, very careful when I speak about minorities, but in Turkey, in Istanbul, there are only 2,000 people remaining. That's why, if we add to that things, because they were all of them expelled from Turkey, if we add the Cyprus issue, the intervention of Turkey 51 years ago, we have a total answer of why the border things between two countries influence also the minority things. Every person should self-define himself as what he feels, and then will respect, with respect to their origin, to their culture, yes, to their culture, they should be proud of it. We should also try to make them be proud and useful for them and for the country they live. Which is
colleague,
equally for everybody, between everybody, and of course, proud for the origin and proud at the same time as Greek citizens. That's why I'm trying. That's why I'm trying.
Of course, you are perfectly on this perfect vision. I share vision. For instance, as a Turkish citizen, now, as one for whatever difficulties they had in the past and today, Greek Orthodox minority or Armenian, all of them, I feel the same pity for them, really. For instance, during the 6th September events, you know those events in Istanbul.
55, but the base, the biggest wave of expulsion happened 64.
Yeah, and equally, with the same sorrow in my heart, I feel exactly the same for what has happened in 1990 January in Gümülcine or whatever, against the Turkish minority. because these minorities really
It
are
was
sacred
sad,
minorities.
very sad things.
Yes, very sad things. So this is very clear.
Of course,
So
without
this is-
violence against people,
everything is said. Everything is said. So this is it. I mean, we can make a new start. We can make a start. I don't know whatever elements we have, because this is the reason what I said.